Welcome back to the Drone Recovery Podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Kevin. On this week's episode, we talk about everything from the DJI ban and whether it'll happen. We talk about ag drones. We talk about American-made drones. We talk about the big show that you were just at, huge industry show.
Yep.
We talk about Starlink if you need it. We talk about the Part 107, a bunch of ground chatter this week. Don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to the Drone Recovery Podcast. If it sounds like I'm tired, it's because I am tired. We're just going to get started off with that right away. Got home this morning at like 2:20 a.m. from Las Vegas. Was out there for the SHOT Show. Wow. Yep, I'm a little drained for some reason.
Yep, that's all right. So we went to two trade shows recently. We went to ATA and SHOT.
Yep.
Different or the same?
Yeah, way different. SHOT Show is absolutely mind-blowing how big it is, how many people are there, how many products are in the world, and I just have no clue. Like, I walk in there and I'm like, this gun and that product and this down here. It's just like there's so much. I don't know. I just freaked out. I was a newbie. I was like, whoa. Like,
when we went to ATA, in 2 hours or 3 hours, we walked through.
Oh, you could never do that.
Floor.
There's no way. I did not walk through every aisle because I couldn't.
Yeah.
It would take me probably 4 days.
Yeah.
If you're now, you could just like run down and
running.
back and
that's a different story.
It is huge. Like the buildings there, it just freaks me out that the buildings are that big. Like. What do they need these buildings for to be this big? Is it for a one-time-a-year expo? Because it's like, dude, you should have seen this.
Yeah, aren't there like 100 different industries that have their annual expo or something there in the same building probably?
I mean, they'd have to try to pay for it because I don't know what else you'd do in there. I mean, you could probably fly little airplanes in there. Like, it's that big. It's
amazing.
Crazy.
Yeah, so anything good? You anything that stood out to you from that show? Anything you saw? Anything new? Anything you think is going to be big?
Yeah, there's a bunch of new products. I mean, there's just a bunch of
any
new.
that are like straight up crazy? Or just...
Well, I'm not that big into guns, so I don't know about it that much. But like Braden Price, he was with us, and like he's way more into that. There's some pretty cool things coming. Mm-hmm. One is a low light scope that stuck out to me. Right, there's different interests, but for me, that's one interest. But there's new guns and new bulletproof vests and all kinds of different things. But for me, it was there's this scope that's being released. I don't know how it works, but it takes the last bit of light without a light or anything, but the scope.
Is it night? It's not night vision.
No, it's not night vision, but you can basically see in the night.
So you see
color.
through the scope in color as if it were day.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So that stuck out to me just because of
anything drone related. Anything cool new in the pipeline you saw?
I
drone
only
related?
seen 2 drones there. One was coupled with tear gas, like it's for crowd control or like in prisons where they can drop tear gas. And the other was a tethered drone. And what that tethered drone would do is you'd have radio communications hooked to it. So it's basically like a tower. Mm-hmm. It becomes a moving tower, and it can fly day and night. It flew. They had a video there where it showed the drone flying for, I want to say it was like 30 days straight.
No way.
Like it just sat there flying the whole time.
Tethered means there's a power source running up to
Yep.
And it just...
Yeah, it's hooked
runs
to a big box, and then the drone takes off, and the wire comes down. But they had like a video. I forget. I maybe shouldn't say, but it was a long time that the drone was sitting up there, day and night, just sitting there as a cell tower.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
That is kind of cool.
It is cool, but I think it's more for like military and the police departments, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. Because for the general public, I don't see how that's going to help them. Yeah. But I did hear in the past that they want to have that type of stuff out west where the cell phone service might be not good. And for temporary, they would send drones out there and have them hover. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work. But military, for sure. Radio,
amazing. And that's just the stuff that's public military.
Yeah.
Not that. Dude, I sent you a video this last week of this little, like...
Yeah, that thing's going viral. Like that little baby drone.
Little baby drone.
Yeah.
And it has enough, like, explosives in it that it can, like, fracture your skull.
Yep. Yeah, we talked.
Like
we talked about some of that type of stuff. But, yeah, a lot of, like, well-known people at the SHOT Show in the industry. It was something to see, for sure. I don't know. We weren't sure, if we should all go, but we should all win. Yeah, it was.
And we should not have gone to the ATA.
Well, no, I still think we made good connections at the ATA.
Yeah, there was rumor that it's like getting smaller every year, and it's
but then I spoke to another guy, but he's Amish here, right? He has an archery business here, and he's like, "No, Mike, we need the ATA." Like, no, he's serious.
Like for what?
For new products, and I think they do more than just that show. ATA is an organization that really promotes archery and that type of thing. So, as far as the show itself, the size of it, we were maybe disappointed, but I think they do a lot more than that. Mm-hmm. And he was just saying that, no, we still need it, is what he was saying.
Yeah,
but
very cool.
I don't know. Yeah, just like being in the industry, because these shows that we're talking about, ATA and SHOT Show, you can't get into those shows unless you're in the industry, either a retailer or media, or you're a manufacturer or something like that. So like DJI, not even in the show. No. Are they too big? They don't care, or are they just not in the industry? They don't. I wondered that too. Well, what about even other drone companies? Like, I wonder, why are not other drone companies there showing their capabilities?
Yeah. I mean, you think if they weren't in the industry before, you think now they're waking up to the fact that there's this whole industry around thermal drones in the hunting industry.
It is just crazy to me. I was walking through the show, and I was telling Braden this all the time, like, how can it be that there's so many companies with the same or similar product, and they're all still surviving?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever thought of that?
I mean, especially like in like bows or guns, like these
guns. Like, let's just take a gun, like a pump 12 gauge, a shotgun.
Yeah.
It's a shotgun. You can't. They're all kind of the same way. It's a shotgun. Like, how can there be that many different companies building a shotgun and doing great at it? And when you're walking around that show and you see that, I'm just like, there is that much demand. And the same way with drones. It's, I think, we're selling drones, and there's other people copying us now, like having a recovery kit or a wildlife kit or whatever they want to call it, right? They're doing what drone deer recovery did. And it's like, it's because the market is actually that big.
Same thing. Yeah, it's big.
Yeah. And I spoke to a guy there from South Africa. They use thermal drones for a whole different reason, like for poachers and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, we think that, it's just here in America, but there's so many more opportunities out there with thermal technology and drones in general, that it's like, okay, there is room for more people, but when you're starting it and you're the first, like we were in this space, right, like making an impact, and then you see a bunch of different people copying you, it makes you feel like, oh man, like, I don't know, competition. But it's like, I think it's all right that there's competition, but when you start like really undercutting and you start driving the market down, just like in the service side of things.
On the service side.
Because what's happening is these other companies that are putting these packages together, they have to price it lower to get people to buy from them, just like you do in the service side. So drone deer recovery is $450 plus $100 if we come out and we find the deer dead or alive. Everybody knows that. There were millions and millions of people that watched our videos and knew what we charge. And then, I don't know, staying in a van starts a deer recovery business, or nicking a Crown Vic. And it's like, they have to price it lower to try to get work. And then it just starts this downhill on where the bottom is. And it's like the same way with selling these drone deer recovery kits. If a company has been selling drones, right, and they've been selling drones for longer than I have, but they didn't have this niche market, and it's like now they start creating a kit, and in order for people to buy the kit from them, right, they go to drone deer recovery, and then people want to shop, and I have nothing wrong. I don't find that wrong, right? Like, shop around. I'd probably do the same thing. But we built this kit, and now other people started building it as well, and they price it lower to try to get the sale. And then the next guy prices it lower. And it's like, guys, if we're going to do that, we're all going to like keep selling things for less and less, and profit margins are going to go down and down and down until you can't survive. And so what I would say is, if you want to do it, but you know where we're at, so let's just stay right there. If you get the sale, great. If you don't, at least you're not driving the market down. Wow, 2 cents on the market. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I've had people call me and be like, "How's a guy charge $150 to do a deer recovery with a Matrice 30T?" And I'm like, I don't know, but I know that I wouldn't want to get up at 11:30 p.m. to drive an hour and a half to go do a $150 recovery. It just, I don't know. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I think this is like, on the service side especially, then you have probably a combination of people who just want to get their feet wet, and like we were talking with somebody recently that was explaining, in a new industry, then typically there's this thing where, the strong players are going to survive in 3 years. There's going to be a lot of people that come in and they underprice themselves, or they get tired of it, because that guy isn't going to do it $150 a night or a pop. He's not going to do that on the weekends, long term. I mean, it's just, it doesn't work. You can't even pay off your equipment at that rate. So and maybe his goals are different, but the people, like, as the industry kind of figures out, okay, what is a fair price? How do I compensate for working all hours of the night, working weekends? The market, I mean, the beauty of capitalism is it just kind of figures out what the right thing is. Yeah. And then on the selling drone side, you have, MSRPs and stuff like that that should guide what the price is. And
we're starting to get into the the agricultural side of selling drones and building trailers, and it's like, we're not the first to do that. There's other people that have done that, but it's all about getting in front of the eyeballs, right? Like, if those people have people coming to their site already, then they're going to go there. And now if they know of, John Henry selling drones, they're going to go to John Henry and see about getting a price from them. And now they hear that Drone Deer does it as well. And then they go to Drone Deer to get a price for their agricultural stuff. And it's like, it's just, the market is just how it works. But when you're in it first and you see other people, it's just something, I think it's just human nature. It's like, oh man, here's another one. Oh man. But I do think that it's all right. Yeah. Because there's that much out there. It's just, how hard are you willing to work to go get it, and to, provide the best service, provide the best product. Customer service is huge once you start in service and selling stuff. And
not to mention ag, which is going to be a whole other level. That's when you really need service. So, I mean, I think, like, when we did a pivot a while back, and we went from having our own licensed operators in various states to, saying, hey, we just want to promote anybody who has a Part 107, wants to advertise on the map that, tens of thousands of people visit every day during the season, or during the heat of the season at least. We were like, well, we're really just opening this up so other people can go run successful businesses, and we kind of had to think through that. Is that but the place where we came out was, the market is big enough, the pie is big enough. We can't be thinking that it's just like a small pie, and it's more like, let's grow the pie. And let's
one of the bigger factors in that was herd analysis, right? Like, we had hundreds of people reaching out to us that had a few hundred acres in, let's say it's Tennessee. I wanted to do that service, right? I wanted to come to Tennessee and count your deer on 200 acres, but it didn't make sense price-wise for them to, hire me to drive all the way down there to do, 200 acres and then drive all the way back. So I'm like we just need more pilots. We need more people that can, service the industry. And those big jobs, right? If you start going over 2,000, 4,000 acres, you're going to need a bunch of pilots. And that's where drone deer is still, where the people are coming is for that big acreage, because we can handle it with the pilots. But it's like, I think when we were talking about the pivot is being able to, when people come to drone deer recovery, they're looking for a pilot. We didn't have enough pilots, and it was like, man, they weren't getting what we were hoping they would get. And that's when we opened it up to, hey, let's build this map. Let's let people list on it. Already we've learned from launching the map and getting feedback from our pro subscribers on there. It's like, we're going to change some things. Are people aware of it already?
Yeah, already aware of it. Yep. Okay. So on February 1st, anybody that hasn't provided proof of having a Part 107, they're getting removed from the site, and it's just
because technically you can't advertise a drone service and charge people if you don't have a Part 107
and
remote
it's like
license.
There's a couple people on there that they've emailed. They said, hey, well, I don't want to charge money. I do it donation only, or I just do it to help find pets, and it's like yeah. I mean, that's, without saying that's not valid. It's more like, well, what we want to have is where anybody that goes there, they know that they have a commercial pilot's license. They know the rules.
Plus, I think it's good. I think even if you want to do it for free, but get your Part 107, because you are going to learn so much about just airspace in general. That is very, very helpful for a pilot that wants to fly a drone. So if you're going to list, and you're going to look professional if you're going to be listing on our website as a pro. So, I get it. If you want to say you're doing it for free, that's one thing, but you're paying money to do something for free. You must have a bunch of money.
Well, and the thing is, Mike, is it's not that hard to get a 107. It looks big to people, but when you actually go through the material, through a video course, or, it's like, spend a couple evenings, depending how fast you learn and absorb, but spend 6 to 8 to 12 hours.
It's valuable information that, for the rest of your life it'll make valuable.
You a better pilot. Very few people will regret doing that.
I would just motivate. I would like to motivate you guys to just do it. It is not that difficult.
Yeah.
Get a study course. We have it on our website where you can sign up and you go through this course and watch videos. You're going to learn. And by the end of it, you're going to be able to pass your test. So and going back to the whole thing about service and stuff like that, I think
this week, on Saturday, there's a meeting in Pennsylvania. You went to Indiana.
Yep.
Speaking to senators, trying to create awareness and education for people who are making the laws in various states. And this morning I replied to a guy from New York who, there's just so many states right now saying, hey, this is going on, and would you guys come help us fight it in this state? And that's where, that's what we're about. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
But then we also have limited time.
Yeah.
And you flew to Indiana.
Yeah. And I plan on flying to Harrisburg on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's there it's just there to help push things forward. And it's because if we can help grow the industry, then everybody wins.
Yeah. And that costs us money. That costs the company money for me to go do these things. But we're willing to do it because as the industry moves forward, then hopefully we can benefit it from at some point. But it costs money to go do these things. So a lot of merch. We're going to have a lot of new merch at the booth. New designs. It's going to be wild hoodies and t-shirts. By that time, the drawing will be over.
Yep.
But as of right now, if you're listening to this, we are allowing anybody that makes a purchase of It's Gonna Be Wild t-shirt or hoodie will be entered to win a complete drone deer recovery kit. There's more details on our website how you can enter as well. So yeah, it's been going pretty well. Trying to figure out how to get everything out the door.
It's been great actually. Well, the quality of these T-shirts and stuff, it's amazing.
I told Kevin like we gotta like. I wasn't completely satisfied with our other merch. I mean, it was all right, but I wanted something that's, soft, comfortable.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Something you want to wear.
Yeah, so it's definitely a step up from what we had. So I'm excited about getting people their merch. And I've already gotten people that DM'd me with the new merch, and they're like, "This is a sweet T-shirt," and it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
we tried putting.
So we we promised to ship it out February, I think 2nd or 2nd to 5th, but we've already been ordering. We've already been starting to ship out. So chances are, if you're one of the first, we may be able to get your orders out this week yet.
Yep. I'm excited to give people an opportunity to win a drone data recovery kit. Like I started thinking about this. Like if somebody gets drawn that doesn't have the money to invest $13,200 into, like, if you have a drone and you put in, great. But like for people that don't have a drone, if they can win and they can come here and we can teach them how to fly a drone and then send them off, and then they go home and then they call me and be like, Mike, I did my first pet recovery, or I did this or that, and that would be cool.
Yeah.
Like just getting people set up with the kit is going to be exciting.
Yep.
And we are planning on doing that drawing on January 31st. According to Kevin, he made that date, and we got to keep the date. And I'm going to be in Arkansas, and so we'll figure out how we're going to do it for sure. I want to do it live. I want to do it live on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, we can get into ground chatter. That is usually where people either ask us questions or give us feedback on how we're doing, and so we will pull that up and try to respond to some of those here.
All right, so for this week's ground chatter, first one, Jason bragging of DJI drones in one of your podcasts, please. Since it just passed that DJI drones can no longer be used in government work in the U.S. now, and Florida has banned the use of DJI drones entirely, statewide for all purposes.
What?
How far do you think that will go? Thanks, Jason.
Florida has banned entirely.
I feel like they have banned state employees from
entirely.
utilizing that.
Yeah, that's not just federal. That's like police departments, anybody that has something to do with the state of Florida.
Either funded federally
not a
or
private
locally.
individual.
Yeah.
No.
So it's a little bit misleading here, the question, or I guess maybe misunderstanding. So if you live in Florida, you can fly your DJI drone. Nobody's going to come out and stop you and harass you and confiscate your drone as long as you're flying it legally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And this is not legal advice.
But yeah, so I think the nature of the question is, what do we think about the government banning of DJI as a company and their drones, their products?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I can say about this and talk about it is basically the reason we hear about this right now is because DJI owns between 70 and 75% of the world drone market. They're that big. They're that known. They have the market. Like, there's no other drone in America right now that I can promote to you guys to do deer recovery because they're not good. They are not good drones. And so what happens is these other drone manufacturers, they can't capture the market. So instead of spending millions of dollars on development and making a better drone that is really good, so I would promote it to you guys, they take those millions and put it in lobbyists instead. And what those lobbyists do, this is my opinion, this is just me talking. What those lobbyists do is they go to DC, they go to these government agencies, and they start like lobbying against DJI. They say they're spying on us, they're sending all this information to China so they can come and kill us, and all that baloney that they talk about, these lobbyists, to try to get them banned. To try to capture some of the market. That is what they're doing. These lobbyist groups are pushing to get DJI banned in America, so those companies that build drones that are no good, that are garbage, then can have some of the market in America. That is what they're doing. That is my opinion. That is why we talk about DJI getting banned. It's because these drone companies hire lobbyists, and those lobbyists try to get DJI banned in America because they are pissed off that they don't have a good product and they can't sell their drones because they're no good in America. And they're trying to capture back some of the market. That's my 2 cents on why we talk about DJI being banned. It's been talked about for years, like before we got into the market, and we got concerned about it too. Like we started selling, DJI spray drones, and I talked to Kevin. I was like, Kevin, have you heard about this banning thing? Like they're gonna ban them. Like how's this gonna work? Like the whole business structure is gonna fall apart, and this thing is gonna burn to the ground, and we can't sell any drones. And it's like we started checking into it. We started talking to people, companies that have sold drones for years, like DJI drones, the best drones right now on the market. And they're like, Mike, it's been talked about for years already. Mm-hmm. Like now that we're in the space and they brought it to mainstream news and that type of thing, they're getting more eyeballs on it. But it's like, guys, settle down. Mike and Kevin, settle down. They've talked about doing this for a long time already. It's just something that gets talked about. It's like TikTok. When TikTok is a China-owned company, they talked about banning it in America. It's like, settle down. Like, it's going to be all right. They're going to figure it out because they are a really good product. They will never go away. Yeah. That's
Mike's 2 cents right there.
You tell me what your 2 cents are.
I think there are drone companies, like U.S.-made drone companies, that are spending millions of dollars on research. But I think millions of dollars doesn't compete with, I think, probably hundreds of millions that DJI is spending. So I think there's still, like, for a small company, there's like innovative American-made solutions like fixed wing and maybe some applications. But for what we're doing, it's not even a competition.
Yeah, like for instance, like the company Altel, like they have made a drone that is supposed to be similar to the Matrice 30T, but it's not.
And I guess going back to like, capitalism and all of that stuff that we were talking about earlier, the latest price drop of the Matrice 30T coincided with the introduction of, I think, Altel's new thermal drone. Yep. So it is good for the consumer to see how the market works, and it is. I'm thankful for DJI's competition. It keeps them honest.
Yeah. But now we're going back to what you and I were talking about earlier about the market coming down, right? DJI had set this market up here because there was nobody else that was competing with their Matrice 30T. There just wasn't. And then Altel builds this drone and says, we're going to sell it at $9,000. Mm-hmm. And then DJI has these drones, and then people start seeing this Altel drone. They're like, oh, I can buy that one instead. It is what it is, but Altel had to do that to try to capture some of the market, where if they would have, stayed up higher, then maybe they could have made more money. But it is what it is. It brought it down. It made it more affordable for certain people. Yep. So I say it's good because we can sell more drones, but then if you're DJI and you're sitting back here like me and Kevin are right now, and we see other people coming into the market and pushing the price down, that's probably how DJI feels. It's like, guys, we've set the market up here, and now you're saying it's down here, and it's like, so again, it's just the whole market figuring itself out.
Figuring itself out, and it will figure it is figuring itself out, and so I think it'll be a good thing. But I can relate to the essence of this question, Mike, because when you and I were starting, I remember when we had to, like, with ag, so we're gonna go sink, I don't know, $30,000-$40,000 into a platform, a drone platform. Do we do XAG? Do we do DJI? And I think it was around that time that we were like thinking about, if DJI is getting banned, are we putting our money on a sinking ship? You want to choose a platform that you can use long term. So this question, I think, comes out of people probably wondering, if I'm going to get into my first drone am I shooting myself in the foot to jump on a DJI?
Yeah.
And we would give a resounding no, you're not. And even if, right, let's say the unthinkable happens and federally the sale of every DJI drone is banned for whatever privacy reason, the DJI drone that you have probably is more valuable than it was before, because now it's still the best product. And I don't know that it's just lobbyists, I guess, in my opinion. I think that there also is a question on privacy and on DJI having access, like, you got to activate a serial number.
Yeah,
so,
but okay, you can bring that up. DJI does not just build drones. DJI builds cameras,
gimbals, cameras.
They need software access for that too, right? If you go buy yourself a little Osmo, it's this little camera that has a gimbal on top. You have to set up an account to use that. I mean, that's a camera moving around. Are they going to ban that next? Like, I don't know. I just feel
the concern is, what if DJI, because DJI is pretty connected to the Chinese government. It's like they're one of the biggest corporations in China. They're huge.
Yes.
So, maybe, China's colluding with DJI and they're going to get all sensitive info. And it's the same thing people are worried about with TikTok. It's like, what if, the Chinese government is using this tool to train the minds of young American youth?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Valid concern, not valid concern. Politically, the chances of it actually getting banned, very, very low. And honestly, for anybody looking to get into a drone system, we only recommend DJI, and it doesn't matter if you buy it from us or someone else. Yeah. We think you're going to regret buying an Altel, buying a
Sky Duo. What is that? Yeah, that's called
Skydio.
Skydio. I think that there may be in the future a American-made drone company that will produce a good product, but right now, if you're listening to this and you do have
a good product,
if you do have a good product, like, send it to us and I'll try it. But it's like, I feel that American-made drones are like 5 to 10 years behind the technology of DJI. And the reason I say that is because DJI has been in the market from the get-go. Like, that was the first drone that everybody talked about, was this big old square Phantom 4 or Phantom whatever it's called. And the booger flew for like 10 minutes without a camera, and it was just this clunky thing.
But that didn't even have a gimbal, the first ones. I thought it was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I mean.
But they just gained all this knowledge, right? And then companies seen these drones come into the market and seen how the industry is going to change and have drones. And then they started manufacturing them, just like everybody's doing with agricultural like drone trailer setup. Everybody sees that there's a market.
Yeah.
People start manufacturing. People start designing their own things, and it's the same thing.
It makes me think, in the ag space, the DJI generator, not your cheapest generator. And we've tried other generators.
Yep.
And garbage. You're using a DJI generator.
Yeah, DJI has built their whole thing is they want you to use all of their things to make it flow easy. There are other generators that charge your batteries fast, but not as fast. So if you're a farmer in Iowa, where you got these wide open, flat fields where your drone isn't returning with, super low batteries, you might be able to get away with a generator that takes 2 to 3 minutes longer to charge your battery. But if you want it to charge exactly the same rate as it discharges, then you're going to have to use their system, which, why wouldn't you?
And that's where, if you're trying to just save a buck, and you are a custom applicator, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have many issues with the DJI generator. I had one generator from DJI that, out of the box, didn't work. Like, it didn't work right. But the others, dude, we ran them hard, 10 hours a day, probably even more. They charged the batteries every time how they were supposed to. And I just think that if a guy is going to do it as a custom applicator, trying to run other generators, for me, I just don't think it's worth it.
Yep.
You know,
And
if
it's all in that ecosystem, because with XAG, when like there's a review video of you comparing the P100 to the T40, and the XAG P100 has way better hardware.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
like
if the software,
the frame, yep.
the software doesn't work, the drone doesn't work.
Yep.
And man, software is hard to get right and expensive.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
so,
Anyhow, yeah.
So
on if they're gonna get banned, Mike's 2 cents is I don't think they're gonna get banned for the general public. But
do you see more like on a state level? Do you see more states following what Florida did?
Probably. I don't know. I mean,
and that probably doesn't even affect like the person asking this question, unless you're a state employee acting in your official duty. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and again, I do think that there are other drone companies that these states are already getting a hold of, and they are just settling, right? They have to settle. They have to have drones. So they are using these drones that are provided to them. But in my opinion, I can only recommend one.
Yep. All right.
At this time.
Hopefully, Jason, that provided some clarity. Next comment is, would you please updated on the case in Michigan? I think the state of Michigan has named some witnesses. Drone Deer Recovery has named some expert witnesses.
Yeah.
And it was funny. We recently spoke to somebody who had been asked, somebody who had some influence and authority in the space, was approached by the state of Michigan saying, would you be a witness for us to testify against the harmful use of drones in thermal carcass recovery?
And they were for it.
And they were like, no, I'm not going to testify that it's bad, because it's good.
Yeah, it is good.
So I thought that was funny. But yeah, no really big update.
No,
right?
not any big update.
I feel like there is a date in February where the next thing has to happen, and I'm not even sure what that is. But at this point, still in discovery, naming witnesses, and
yeah.
So
that's about it. Michigan, it's going to take a while if this court case keeps going through. I do think if you are in Michigan, still do reach out to your state representatives, try to talk to senators, try to get them to put in a bill that will change how the law reads. That is something you can do, is email those people, like get on them about putting a bill in to get it changed. There is I forget what his name is. There is one senator in the state of Michigan that is trying to propose a bill to allow it. So
I think probably one of the questions people have in Michigan is, what are the chances that by this upcoming hunting season, things are going to be different, things will be allowed, there'll be clarity?
I wouldn't bank on it. I would not be like, I'm going to buy a drone in October because by November it's going to be legal in Michigan. I don't think I would do that. I'm not telling you to not buy a drone, because you can still buy a drone for surveillance and security and that type of stuff around your property. And so there's still valid tools there's still valid scenarios that you might want a thermal drone, and to buy one, because you could do pet recovery.
Had a guy in Illinois, one of the early pilots that we connected with, is out there doing a ton of pet recoveries.
Yeah.
And, deer recovery is not legal, as the state in Illinois is interpreting the law.
Yeah.
But pet recoveries, I mean, it's like, there's this whole other market that,
There's definitely people doing drone deer recovery in Illinois, though.
Oh, yeah. And it probably depends, too, on what game warden you talk to. And it depends,
Exactly.
It's the whole confusing mess. I had somebody reach out this week and say, hey, what can you speak to with how you went about starting in Ohio? And I said, well, as I remember it.
Yeah, well, and we talked about that. Like, I went to the DNR, Ken Fitz, and I told him about the technology. I took the wardens out and showed them the technology, and they just, they were cool with it. But now guys are trying that. Guys are trying to go to the head of the Game Commission or the head of DNR and showing them the technology, and they're just not hearing it. They're just not giving a rip about what it is that they want to show them, and that's bad.
Do you think it's gotten like political or what? What's going on?
I don't have 2 cents on that, but It's bad. It is a vital tool that should be allowed to be used by a hunter that has wounded a deer or any legally taken game, elk, bear, whatever it might be, turkey. If it's legally taken and the hunter wants to try to recover it, he should be allowed or given the option to use a thermal drone if he so chooses to.
L.S. Townley says, would like to hear you guys talk more about the requirement of being a Part 107 pilot.
There's really not a lot that's required to be a Part 107 pilot. You basically have to go to a FAA-approved testing center. Most of those are at an airport. Not every airport has a testing center, but a lot of them do. And yeah, you take the test. You don't have to take a physical. It's not like you have to have a certain fatigue. Like you don't have to be. But basically, if you have like diabetes, it's not like can't get your remote pilot's license. I don't know.
It's purely theoretical. It's only theory. It's nothing practical. I think a lot of people have questions about that.
Yeah.
You don't go out there and actually take your drone to fly it in front of a supervisor or something.
I see.
You just answer 70 questions, multiple choice, and it's testing your knowledge on weather, traffic patterns,
clouds, sectionals, the maps.
Yeah.
It's a lot of it is directed toward airplanes, and if you understand airplane things, then it's going to make you a safer drone pilot. You're going to think about launching this drone next to this airport if you understand what's going on. It's going to make you think before you send your drone up to 5,000 feet to show your buddy how cool, look, I can see 80 miles. It's like, no, guy, you're at 5,000 and I'm coming through there with my airplane at 200 miles an hour and that thing rips through my windshield. You're going to kill a guy. So it's you're going to learn valuable things with, safety. Safety, that's what the FAA is. Federal Aviation Administration is about safety, and they just want you to know, when you're flying your drone, think about safety. Think about other people in the sky.
So the other part of this question might be, when am I required to have a Part 107? And if I'm going to go fly my matrice only on my land for my own personal use, do I need a Part 107? Do I not? What do I need?
Yeah, so if you are solely doing it for your own purpose, you're not charging anybody a service, even if it's as much as, I call Kevin to come fly his drone at my property, and in exchange, I'll give you a cup of coffee. That, to the FAA, is a form of compensation. I gave him a cup of coffee for him to fly your drone on my property, so you can't do that. When you start doing that, any form of compensation, then you are acting as a commercial remote pilot, and that's when you need
the Part 107.
The Part 107.
Yeah.
If you just want to fly it, you buy it, right? You buy the Matrice 30T and you want to count your own deer and you want to find your own lost deer or your pets or something like that. You don't need it. But I'm trying to encourage you guys, even if it's for personal, if you get your Part 107, you're going to learn a lot. And I think it's valuable information. So technically speaking, you do not need your remote pilot's license if you are flying a drone for personal use only.
Next one is, how heavy is that drone? Looks like they're talking about your T40.
The T40, yep. Without any liquid in it, it's 80 pounds. So to fly those drones, that's a whole different ball game. You got to get a 44807 exemption from the FAA, and hold it. Once you go over 55 pounds in a drone, then things are a little different,
a little more complicated.
Yep.
And somebody asked, Upstate New York Nate says, what's the purpose of Starlink on the truck?
The reason I have Starlink on my truck is when I go in southern Ohio, there's a very limited cell phone service, and all my calls run through a internet service for drone deer recovery. And when I'm out on calls doing deer recovery, I want to be able to take those phone calls all the time and then just be connected to the internet. And we also talked about doing a live I like live streaming recoveries, and we were testing that to see if we could make that happen. It's not required to fly my Matrix 30T. I've been asked that question a lot on Instagram DMs and stuff about, do I need a Starlink to fly my Matrix 30T? And you do not need a Starlink. It's only there for my personal use to be connected to the internet at all times. It makes it a little more convenient for me to have it, because if I load my maps on my controller, if I'm connected to Starlink, it doesn't matter where I'm at, it's going to be able to load those maps. If I'm using my phone hotspot to try to load those maps, because you can connect to a Wi-Fi with your smart controller, and I'd connect to the Starlink router if it's available. If it's not available, I would connect to my mobile hotspot on your phone. Almost all smartphones have it. And then I could, get the map where I'm at. Like it would upload it. But still, if you don't need the map, you can still fly your drone.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to have that. It just makes it easier. It makes it easier. But 99% of people will just use their mobile hotspot, and it'll be able to load that map.
So I had a couple questions of people asking, Mike, do I need to have something like Starlink for remote ID?
No.
Is it important for my drone to be connected to Wi-Fi to broadcast remote ID?
No.
So can you tell us how remote ID works on a drone?
I can't. I'm not that geeky and that smart.
So but it's not like it's being broadcasted via internet. It's like
No.
from the drone for a certain amount of it's like broadcasted.
It's almost like a radio frequency.
Yeah.
If you are within, and these aren't everywhere, but there's towers around bigger airports that catch that radio frequency that your controller and your drone are sending out, and then that is attached like a license plate. Like if you go past a trooper and he scans your plate, he's going to know who's who's it registered to. Yeah, all that. So it's the same thing. It's a radio frequency. If you're within that range, that signal is being sent out, because you're communicating with your drone from your controller to your drone with radio frequency. And so that's how I understand it. Is the controller has a remote ID, and the aircraft has a remote ID. If you are within a big airport area, that's where they have these towers. They might, in the future, try to make them bigger to go out in more rural areas where they can catch it. But I also think that there's law enforcement has these in their trucks that they can pull it out anywhere they're at, and they can scan around and see if there's anybody flying, and then that'll give them the stuff. So that's why I say, like, if you're gonna, because states are talking about potential for abuse, like, equip the law enforcement with those types of things, like where they can scan the airspace, and if somebody's doing something illegal, they're going to know exactly where he's standing, who it is, and all that type of stuff. So that would be great, because if there's a poacher out there that's using it for bad, he's going to walk right into this thing, and he's going to basically put the handcuffs on himself, because there's flight logs. They can get the flight logs off of that drone, when it was flying, how far it was flying, all the data that they need to convict you if you were doing something bad. So, yeah. And I would talk to people about that, like law enforcement, if they want to know about it. And it's like, guys, if you want to talk about potential for abuse, like, if you capture somebody's drone, they're going to have all the data they need to figure it out. Because where was the deer shot? Oh, the drone was flown at this time of the day, and then you shot it at this time. It's like, anyhow,
I feel like that's not common knowledge for a lot of law enforcement officers. It's a whole new thing.
Yeah, it's a whole new thing. It's a whole new thing. Yep.
All right, next one is, when it comes to ag drones, how does the spray not damage the drone over a period of time?
It is impressive that they have built these drones to be basically I can't say waterproof because I don't want you to go out and take a pressure washer and try to, wash your T40 off, because that don't work well. A guy did that, and it ended up at the shop. But yeah, they are kind of in a cloud of moisture all day if you're spraying. How doesn't it? I think if you be spraying very corrosive product all the time, like glyphosate, where it's a lot of salt. I haven't had my drones long enough to know if they're going to last for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. But you would think after a period of time, if you're spraying something very corrosive, that it could potentially start corroding wires and that type of thing. But we haven't had any issue with it as of right now.
Yeah. And like you've told me, the drone is, whenever you're spraying, it's like it's flying in rain all the time.
Kinda. Maybe not all the time, because so when it gets to the end of a row, okay, so when it's flying down a row, it's flying away from the spray, but then when it comes to the end of the row and the drone kind of like stops and then moves forward like that, if you can't see me on YouTube, the drone stops and it still sprays, and then the spray kind of like rolls around because it pushes it forward, then it would be. But it is definitely wet at times when it returns.
It's built for that.
Yeah, it's built
like,
for that.
It's just part of the game.
Yep.
All right, looks like that's the end.
That's all the ground chatter we have.
That's all the ground chatter this
cool.
week.
I think we've been going for a while.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good information.
Hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah. Alrighty. So that's probably all we got for today. Expo's coming up. If you're in Indiana, we're also doing an expo there. What is that one called? Midwest Sportsman's Classic. That's going to be at the Michiana Event Center in Shipshewana, Indiana. That is the third week in February. That's in February sometime. Just Google it. And then we'll be in Harrisburg in a week or so. Google that as well. And yeah, come out. Let's talk drones. And some people just want to see the drones, right? They want to put their hands on it and see it. So if you're in those areas.
Yep. And we'll have the Matrice and the T40 there. So whichever drone you want to see, look at, whatever, see how it works.
T40 is going to be a little hard to get your hands on because it's on top of the booth. So unless you're jumping up there and touching it.
Probably not advisable.
If
you do that, you're going to make Mike kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah. Rather not have you do that. But that's all we got for this week on Drone Deer Recovery Podcast. Thanks for listening.
See you in the next one.